Welcome to the third edition of New Year Black Me. So I was also given another video. This happened, I want to say yesterday or 2 days ago. It was a guest at Doubletree. He was in a lobby of the hotel in which he was a guest, and this is out of Portland, Oregon. Security guard came by, harassed him about, why he was there. He said he was taking a phone call, an important phone call with his mother. Well, anyhow, he called the police, or it appears that the security guard, his name is Earl, reached out to the manager named Lewis, who was shown in the video to be making a call to the police. After that, then he asked, what's going on? Why would you call 911 without understanding what's going on? Because if you're calling 911, basically you're saying you can't handle the situation. There's a breach of peace. There's some criminal activity going on, and we can't handle it. We need you to come out. That's something they could have handled. That's something they could have easily determined whether he was a guest or not without having to figure out what's his exact room number. I'll roll the video and let you watch that. But before I roll that video, I want to talk about another video, which in coming across that video, I just happened to see this video. So I'm going to roll them back to back. This second video is out of Indianapolis. A guy was in his neighborhood. He was fixing his car. Police officers approached him and said that he was loitering. And then they asked for his ID after they challenged him, or after the guy challenged that, he wasn't loitering. They said, do you know what loitering is? Look it up. They obviously don't know what it is. Just so you guys know what it is when you're watching the video, at least so you can have an idea for both videos, because both of these videos, someone said that the security guard and police officer said that these gentlemen were loitering. So in each of these videos, loitering, legal definition, and you can look it up on Google or whatever. Loitering is when you're standing or waiting in a position idly. You have no particular purpose, no business purpose or legal purpose for being there. If you're a guest at Doubletree, you have a business purpose or legal purpose for being there. And you say, what's the legal purpose? Legally, he's what you call an invitee. He is invited on being there. He's a guest at that place. If you live in a neighborhood and you're there, and you sign some type of contractual agreement that to have a home or apartment in that complex, then you are legally a resident there. So in those situations, both of these people were not loitering.
He's calling the cops on me because I'm taking a phone call at the Doubletree Hotel. Say hi, Earl. Say hello. You came over here because I was taking a phone call in the area where no one was. I had a family emergency, and I was taking a phone call, and this guy's harassing me. And he wants to call the cops on me because I'm taking a phone call in the lobby of my hotel. You really want this PR issue, Earl? Do you?
Portland Police will be here in a minute.
Thank you. Call them. I'm waiting.
Okay.
They're coming. Why? Why are they coming?
Escort you off the property?
Because what? And I'm staying here?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay. I'm staying here. I have a hotel. I didn't do anything to you. I'm sitting over here taking a phone call, and you interrupted my phone call. Did you interrupt any of these other people here?
They'll be here in a minute.
Sure. I have not moved. I've been sitting here the whole time, and they're calling the police on me because I'm taking a phone call in the lobby. Did he ask any of those people that just walked by What room they were staying in? No.
Entrance to security? Or not?
203, go ahead.
Hello, just let me know your keys is up.
Copy that. Could you put it in the fridge? I've got a situation around here.
Copy that, I'll do it.
Wow. If you're gonna call the cops on me, I'd like to know why.
I was just asked you.
So you're gonna just follow directions. You're not gonna ask me questions before you call the cops on me,
Well, that's what I was going
Lewis.
to do. So if you could just calm down, all right? What's going on? What's the issue?
So now you ask what the issue is after you called the cops on me, right?
Yes.
Because I was taking a phone call in the lobby and Earl decided to come over here and harass
I
me.
don't know that. I'm just coming into the situation.
I'm telling you what happened.
Okay. All right.
You can look at your cameras. I'm sure you guys have them around here.
Sure. So he wouldn't ask me to call 911 without any cause.
I didn't do anything to this man.
Okay.
I'm taking a phone call.
Okay.
And I needed some privacy. I had a family emergency going on, and this gentleman decided to come over here and harass me and ask me where I was staying.
Okay. He has a right to do that. You know that, right?
Did he ask anyone else in here?
Yes.
For what reason?
Same reason I told you.
Did you ask them to just walk by?
They're not loitering.
How am I loitering in an area that's public?
They're sitting here.
So this area is off limits after a certain time?
Only if you're a guest.
I am a
You
guest.
didn't tell me that.
I said that I'm a guest.
No.
I
asked
told you
what
that.
room you were in, you
What's your
refused.
I'm in 5 something.
Well, now you want to give me.
I don't know the number. I just checked in today. Here's my ticket, my room. I just checked in with my American Express.
Okay.
And these gentlemen are harassing me.
No one's harassing you, man.
You
I'm
are.
just trying to get to the bottom of it. No one's
There's
harassing you.
nothing to get to the bottom of, sir. Do you want to check and see if I'm a guest?
That's why I asked you, man. I'm trying to help you out here, bro.
No, I'd like to see the cops. Let the cops come, please.
That's fine. All right.
You guys are crazy, I tell
See
you.
what I'm dealing with?
Because Earl told me that
Earl's
I
in
need to
control
leave.
of the property, yes.
Okay,
He
so
says you gotta
Earl
leave,
runs
you gotta
this
leave.
place, right?
He does
I'm
right
sitting
now.
here taking a phone call. He comes over here
You can
questioning me
narrate
while I'm on the
this
phone
into
call.
How am I loitering
Because
if I live on
listen,
this property,
listen,
bro?
Listen to me. I explained.
You
to
don't know if I'm fixing my car,
Right,
if I'm
and that's
waiting
why-
to leave
okay.
or not. So why is you walking up saying I'm loitering?
Because do you know the definition of loitering? Get on Google right now. Look up definition.
I
of
don't
loitering.
need to. You probably want me to stop recording so you can.
No, you
fuck
can keep
with me.
recording. I would encourage you to keep recording.
And now you done called your what? Security? Your fake backup?
There ain't no security here. Everybody's police officers, as you're
Bro,
about to find out.
It don't matter. So as
As
you're about to find
out.
out, you don't have no reason to come over here to
I
stop
do,
me.
because you're loitering on the property, sir, and I just asked you for identification, and because I don't know you, when I asked you where you live at, you can't give me an address where you
I'm
live.
not about to tell you where I live. I don't know who you are. You could be a fake police officer.
There ain't no... You,
So why would I
is
tell you
anybody
where
here
I
a fake
live?
police officer?
Nope, not that I know of.
Bro, can I get
There's
some?
my badge. You want my ID?
Yeah, I want everything from everybody.
Where do
Yeah.
I need your ID, sir?
You can film me all you want. I really don't give a shit.
Man, that's not the point.
There it is, Sergeant Robert Patterson, Southport Police Department.
Him too. Why is
You
you
have
looking
ID
at my
on you?
car?
Do you have ID on you?
Can I get his badge number?
Do you have ID on you?
Can I get
You
his
can go to
badge
jail
number?
for not IDing yourself.
No, I cannot.
Yes, you can.
For what? What am I doing?
Because you have to identify yourself to a law enforcement officer. That's the law. Okay? If you
What
don't
is the
have-
crime though?
Okay, step on out.
No,
We'll
well,
do this the hard way then. Step on out.
what is the crime?
Step on out.
What is the crime?
Sir, either you're going to step out or we're going to bring you out.
What is the crime, bro?
I just told you what it was.
What is the crime? Is what I'm saying.
I just told you what it
What
was.
is that?
You're not IDing yourself.
That's a crime. A
Yes,
crime
it is.
involves an
Yes, it
injured
is.
party. Come on, don't play with me.
Okay.
So y'all really about to fuck with me?
Step on out. Step on out.
Why is you touching me, bro?
Step on out.
Dude, step out of the car. Don't make
I
Why
suggest
you-
you
bro.
don't make it worse.
Bro, why is you touching me, bro? What the fuck is y'all doing, bro?
Stop tensing up.
What the fuck is you
Stop tensing up.
doing? Bro,
You got a cup?
bro, back up, bro. Hey, bro. Man, back the fuck. Get off me, bro.
Stop tensing up.
Get off me, bro. Bro, are you serious, bro? Are you serious, bro?
the reason why I want to provide my commentary on this video, because I feel that this loitering, which is under vagrancy laws, has trended back towards slavery. And everyone always says, why do you always have to bring up slavery? Slavery is so in the past. It's not, because it's basically taken on a form of a new name. Slavery is, and all the things that come along with slavery, the discrimination, the hatred, all those things are just floating alone. And now they're in the present. So all these things are connected somehow. And all these laws were passed off of that same discrimination and hatred. So maybe in this video, there's nothing saying that it was some type of racial bias, because vagrancy laws cannot just, it can go towards the poor too. And all of these laws were pretty much to prevent unwanted people, poor blacks, to be around a public place if you didn't want them there. Because the whole idea about these vagrancy laws, and just so you know, prostitution, solicitation, all those things go underneath the vagrancy laws, and loitering as well. If you're idle, and you probably heard, if you grew up in a Christian home, you may have heard idle mind is the devil's workshop. If you're somewhere and you're idle, you have no purpose of being there. You're not, no business reasons for being there, no particular reason. It pretty much breeds criminal activity. So you would be suspected, or you would looked at or have an appearance of being suspect for criminal behavior activity. Okay, so you just saw this video. The first video, the guy was on the phone at Doubletree. I think his name was Massey. His last name is Massey, I believe. He was on the phone. He is a guest there. The gentleman, Earl, he's a security guard, later said, well, you didn't tell me what room number you had. Why does he have to tell you the exact room number he has? Same thing with the other video where in Indianapolis, he said, well, you know, where exactly do you reside? What's your address? Why do people have to provide the exact address of where they live or what building or what room they're in? I feel like this day and age, whether you're police or security guard, it's dangerous to provide someone the exact address. And if you don't believe me, look at the Amy Geiger story. She's a police officer busting black guy's home and shot him. And you can look in that story. I'm not going to go into detail about that story, and that's out of Texas. So given the exact address, with all the hatred and discrimination, I don't want anyone having my address. All you need to know is I belong in the area that I'm in. But if you look at, so before I go back and give the history on what I'm trying to get at and how I feel like it's all connected, there's a case called Papa Christou, I believe, if I'm saying it right, Papa Christou v. Jacksonville. This is out of Jacksonville, Florida. Supreme Court said that the vagrancy laws there, and she was picked up on her charges were loitering. The Supreme Court said that the vagrancy law was too vague, and it needed to be more detailed. And being vague pretty much gave police too much power to, pick people up on activities that were innocent, activities that were, innocent, that could give the appearance of some type of wrongdoing. So, standing around a bank, you just look suspicious. The police could pick you up for loitering when, in fact, you could have been waiting to be picked up by Uber after taking care of business there. So it needed to be a little bit more detailed, is what the Supreme Court said, just to prevent any type of harsh consequences. Now, I don't know if you know this, but even today, loitering, you can still get fined or a year in prison just for loitering. Now, just rewind. I'm going to go all the way back first to slave code laws. And then I'll talk about the identification statute, in which the other video said that not showing your ID is a crime. If you want to know if that's true, all you have to do is type in your state and type in identification statute in Google, and it will tell you. By the way, the police officer's wrong about the loitering for one, and identifications for two, because you have to be doing a crime or some type of infraction in order to show your ID. If you're not, a suspect for a crime or some type of infraction, and I say infraction because a traffic infraction would allow the police officer to ask for your ID where you need to show it. But just walking down the street, show me your ID, just because they ask doesn't mean you have to give it to them if you're not doing a crime. And I want to go back because that behavior brings me back to slave codes laws. In slave code laws is when you were a slave, or if you happened to be during slavery time, a free black person, you still had to have papers. It's kind of like when you're in school, you need a hall pass to be out in the hall. Now, the people who did the patrolling and made sure people had their slaves were called patty rollers. And I don't even think they necessarily had to be police officers or anything. They were just in charge of making sure if you saw a black person, they were approved to be out in the city to get or do whatever they need out on the road. They had to have a piece of paper approving them so, or some type of freedom paper saying they are free. And if you didn't have those papers, you would, be in trouble, beaten or so forth. Now, when slavery was over with, this is around 1865, 1866, slaves were still being free. If you didn't have those papers, well, let me first say this. Once you were free and you were black, sometimes at some point, you may not have had a home. Sometimes people still stayed on the plantation, but they became sharecroppers. But if you did not have a home, or you did not want to be a sharecropper, you were homeless or trying to find your new home and go find your family. So you were what some people call a drifter, going from, state to state. Now, at that time, if you were in a state in which you were not a resident and you were black, I can't remember what state that was, Illinois, I believe it is. If you were in that state that you were not a resident of for 10 days, more than 10 days, you were deported back to your state. And that was after you were arrested and detained and probably beaten, fined, or whatever. That still goes back to the patty rollers. You're going to have to show your papers, obviously, to show that whether you should, whether or not you were a resident. Then and that's fast forward a little bit. Not a resident, you were deported back, and then fast forward, now you are in black code laws, and this is after slavery. You would have to be in some working or some legal reason for being there at a particular place, and this is under vagrancy laws. And if you weren't, you were detained and arrested. And if you were arrested, you were part of what they call a convict lease system, where you would do labor for someone. You could be leased out for labor. Now, that was, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, but they just gave it a different name, but it was the same thing. Now, after that, they said, we're going to do away with that. We're not leasing people out. Well, apparently now, if you didn't know, if you are in jail, you're still doing free labor, slavery, for entities. JCPenney, at one point, you can look it up. They were hiring, I shouldn't even say hiring. They were using prisoners to make their jeans. AT&T were having people take phone calls. So you could be getting a call from a prisoner, or you could be calling AT&T and the person on the other line could be a prisoner. New York license plates were being made by prisoners. vehicle license plates. There's so many other companies. You can look it up. There's several companies that are part of this private prison corporation and making money off of prisoners. Some prisoners are getting paid $2 a day. Some are getting paid a couple of cents, and some get paid no money. So slavery is still alive and well. So if someone says again, slavery is over with, like, I'm just going to say, read a book, because we are allowed to do that now. We are allowed to read books. We are allowed to do that. So if you pick up a book, and if you don't want to pick up a book, if you have a phone, there's a thing called Google, and Google gives you information. And if you didn't learn about it in your history books, because most of the time they weren't in history books, and there's probably still not in history books, you have to look for that information. So now that you have the opportunity to read and write, it's best to do so. So I would say that if you don't know, if you don't believe what I'm saying, go look it up. I love people who challenge people and look it up for themselves. So going back to this whole black code laws, underneath those were vagrancy laws, and you had a lot of drifters, people who were homeless, people who were poor, people who were black, and like I said, they would put them in jail, and they would be part of the convict lease program. And it doesn't matter how minor the infraction was. Now, fast forward even more. 1877 started the Jim Crow era. That was of the South. Black code laws were both North and South, and Indiana was part of that. So just so you know, that other video that was out of Indiana. Now, Jim Crow era, you know that it was like whites only colors here is what they would have signs for to segregate everyone. Now, in that, if you were black and you went into some type of white establishment and you wanted to be served, even though it said whites only, the owner would call the police, and the police would arrest you under loitering, which is part of vagrancy laws. So that gave police pretty much the power to arrest you for even minor infractions, even if you were just hanging around that area, or begging for food or whatever it is. You were pretty much going to be arrested for such minor infractions. Even if just because you appeared to be suspect, even if you actually had a reason for being there, such as trying to get food or water, but you weren't allowed to because you were black. So all of those things, it pretty much goes into these stories. It's abuse of power. If you feel that you can just pick someone up on loitering charges because they just appear to be suspect, don't look like they belong, I mean, that's very vague. And when I say I don't even mean just security guard and police officers. You can think about all the 911 calls where people say someone looks suspect. You know, if you're not doing some type of criminal activity, how can you just look suspect? There has to be more circumstances and situations and things occurring to actually make someone look suspect. You may have some states have it things similar to loitering, like prowling, and there's more than one. It's more defined. It's not just vague. More than one things need to happen for it to be considered prowling, and that's what loitering should be. So both of these videos, I feel like it's kind of like history repeating itself. You have all of these laws and codes that's telling police or security guard or any type of law enforcer or people who feel that they are enforcer of the law to pretty much define, who shouldn't and who should be there, who's suspicious and who's not, just by looking at someone. So it just makes me wonder, at what point are we going to change? And Martin Luther King Jr. said it best, you can have a law, you can't have, you can make laws. The law is not going to make someone love you, but it's going to keep them from lynching you. And you're right. You can't keep people, you can't make people love you. But see, the thing here is you can have as much diversity training as you want. You can fire as many people as you want. But it's the system in which we live in, the society in which we live in, that's breeding this type of behavior. So you can teach about inclusion and diversity and unique people and how we should all get along, all those things. But if there's hatred in the heart, or if you just don't like people, or I should say like certain people, whether they're poor, whether they're black, brown, mixed, whatever it is, unless the heart changes, people are going to behave and treat people a certain way. Because although discrimination is wrong, you may still have people who can treat you or talk to you a certain way, even though they can't actually do wrong. And I'll give just a quick example. You have McDonald's and you have Chick-fil-A. They both do the same type of job. The person who is serving, the cashier, they're still ringing up your food, still giving you your food. You're all wearing a uniform. All those things may be the same, but it's going to be the attitude that's different. The attitude. So just like that, it's just like in society. You have all these people that are abiding by the law. They don't have the signs anymore that says whites and colors, but it's how you treat people once they get into that building that shows the difference. And same thing with education and jobs and the criminal justice system. You can say and have all these things, these laws on the books, but if you're going to treat people differently, then the law means nothing. It's just there. And it's sad, because now you have people who are taking off of the white robes and putting on the black robes. And the black robes are the judge robe. If you're a judge, they put on the black robe. They put on the purple robe, and that's the robe for pastors and priests. So they're just taking off one sheet and putting on another. You have people who are state attorneys and district attorneys and so much more, and they're just sometimes they're part of the problem too. Not everyone, but you have badges. Some people have the badge on, and and they're not protecting and serving the people, but they're protecting and serving the system in which we live in. And that system is corrupt and it's full of hatred, and all of that stems back from the history in which I just spoke about. All that's embedded in that history. And then think about that. This is years and years and years ago, but we still see this here in 2018. So yes, we may have progressed in our laws and the way we name the laws, but it's still the same. So, put your comments down, hit the like button, and subscribe.